Alright, let's dive into something that's been on my mind lately, and it's not just about birds or flu. It's about the bigger picture of how vulnerable our ecosystems are, and how a single virus can shake the foundations of entire species. So, here's the deal, the H5N1 bird flu has made its way onto Australia's radar, and it's not just any flu, it's the kind that's been dubbed a doom sheet for some of the country's most iconic wildlife. We're talking black swans, Tasmanian devils, and even the dolphins of Monkey Mia. What makes this really interesting is how it's forcing us to confront the fragility of species we often take for granted. Personally, I think what immediately stands out is the scale of this threat. The government's risk assessment scored over 2,000 native birds and mammals, and nearly 1 in 5 are at extreme, very high, or high risk. That's not just a number, it's a wake-up call. Black swans, for instance, are rated as high risk, and if you take a step back and think about it, these birds are practically symbols of Australia. What this really suggests is that even the most recognizable species aren't immune to global threats like bird flu. One thing that many people don't realize is how this virus doesn't just target birds. Dolphins, seals, and even quokkas are on the list. The Houtman Abrolhos lesser noddy, a bird that nests on just 3 islands, is at extreme risk. From my perspective, this highlights how localized species are often the most vulnerable. They don't have the luxury of a wide habitat to fall back on, and that's a detail I find fascinating and terrifying. Now, let's talk about the response. The Albanese government has committed $113 million to prepare for this, with $47 million specifically for threatened species. But here's where it gets tricky. Invasive Species Council CEO Jack Goff says it's not enough. And honestly, I can see why. When you consider the speed at which bird flu can spread, like what happened in South America, where it knocked out over 600,000 birds in just 4 months, it's clear that we're playing catch-up. What many people don't realize is that this isn't just a 4-month problem, it's a years-long battle with waves of outbreaks. In my opinion, the real issue here is the lack of proactive investment. Goff points out that politicians have had this data for at least a year, yet we've seen cuts to environmental programs. If you take a step back and think about it, this isn't just about bird flu, it's about how we prioritize wildlife resilience in the face of global threats. This raises a deeper question: are we doing enough to protect our ecosystems before disaster strikes, or are we just reacting after the fact? What makes this even more compelling is the historical context. Black swans in captivity in the Northern Hemisphere showed no immune response to H5N1, and they all died within days. That's not just a bad outcome, it's a worst-case scenario. And it's not just swans, little penguin colonies in WA are already under pressure, and bird flu could push them to the brink. If the virus gets in, we could see entire colonies collapse, just like in Antarctica. From my perspective, this isn't just a story about a virus, it's a story about how interconnected our world is. Bird flu doesn't respect borders, and neither do its consequences. What this really suggests is that we need a global, coordinated effort to protect vulnerable species. But here's the thing, are we ready to act at that scale? Personally, I think the answer is no, not yet. So, where does this leave us? Well, the next best time to invest in wildlife resilience is right now, especially ahead of the spring breeding seasons. But it's not just about throwing money at the problem, it's about rethinking how we approach conservation in the face of global threats. What makes this really interesting is that it's not just about saving animals, it's about saving the ecosystems that sustain us all. As I wrap this up, I'm left with a thought-provoking question: what does it say about us if we can't protect the very symbols of our natural heritage? Black swans, Tasmanian devils, dolphins, these aren't just animals, they're part of our identity. And if we can't safeguard them, what does that mean for the rest of the planet? Let me know what you think in the comments. This is a conversation we all need to be having.